Hey guys, would you like to go from this to this when you're drawing or painting eyes? Well then let's go. Today I'm using regular drawing pencils. These are Mars from STAEDTLER. I use WINSOR NEWTON watercolor. This is my own palette of chosen colors. Fineliners from STAEDTLER, water and brushes, and of course Polychromos from FABER CASTELL. I start off by wetting the paper around the eye, and this is to achieve a more smooth transition when blending color. The skin color that I'm using here is a mixture of yellow ochre, permanent rose, and burned umber. Please make sure you test the color on a separate piece of paper before applying it to your sketch. And make sure it's the same type of paper so that you'll know how the paper soaks up water and soaks up color. Remember to let each layer dry. It's very important when we do watercolor that we do that. And please remember to build shadows slowly. Try and avoid using the same color when building shading and when building like the colors. I have used, in addition to the three colors that I mentioned before, I've used raw umber, alizarin crimson, which is a more pinkish red, really good for those pinkish details in the eye and around the eye, burnt sienna, and Payne's gray. Payne's gray is not black, it's a bluish grayish color. I use it all the time because I find that using black will only flatten the colors. When you use a darker version of, for example, blue or green or brown, you get sort of more life into the color. Does that make sense? I hope so. For the brow, I forgot to mention, I used a raw umber for that. And the eyeball is a tiny bit of Payne's gray and burnt umber. And for the iris, olive green, sap green, Winsor green, the blue shade, and Payne's gray. Please, I cannot stress enough, please remember to let every layer dry before moving on. And by all means, keep the light, meaning don't just put a lot of color on everywhere. I mean, it's so hard to lift it off the paper. You can do that with very expensive paper or better quality, but it's really important to keep the light because it just gives a much better result if you keep the light. For lashes, oh wait, we're not doing that yet. This is a voiceover. Oh, I'm using a very tiny brush here for the iris, and I'm trying to paint the iris pattern with Payne's gray and a little bit of burnt sienna, I think. And then I'm just slowly building and building and building layer by layer. You can use a hairdryer if you don't have the patience, or for example, if you've just worked on the brow, you can go work on the iris. You can move around in the drawing as long as what you're drawing on won't blend into what you've just painted, if that makes sense. That's very important, to keep things separate and to let everything dry. I mixed Payne's gray and burnt sienna and raw umber for the pupil, and I'm also using those three colors for the lash. Please, you can use the fine liners for the lashes if you don't feel confident or if you don't have a really thin brush that you trust. But here I'm using a brush, and I'm using the same three colors for the brow. Please remember to leave these small, tiny light areas of light in between the hairs. Don't just put a lot of color on it like blotch. You need to really be very mindful about how you draw every strand of hair. And remember that the hairs in a brow grow in all kinds of directions. Yeah. So there's the result. I hope you like it and want to try it yourself. And this is the final result. I intensified the pupil with fineliner ink. I also used white Posca for highlighting small details. For example, under the iris and in the corner of the eyes. Then I used some colored pencil for details, softening up those lines to give it a more natural look. And here's the finished result. I hope you liked it, and thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for subscribing and following this channel. It means the world to me. Take care. Bye.